morning, everyone. This is Apostle Frederick Allen coming to you with a serious matter pressing upon my heart. This is still Black History Month, February. I don't have the date right here before me. 17. February 24th, Wednesday, February 24th. I have a situation pressing upon my heart because of the time we're living in and the way things are in America and our world. All the hatred and strife and bigotry and racism in the world. You know, Mobile, Alabama is my hometown. I grew up in the Down the Bay community, but not long ago, I had the occasion to be violated and wrongfully arrested by Deputy Joseph McGuire of the Theodore Department of the Mobile County Sheriff Department. It was a heinous, mean act to do, and it happened after I reported a crime that had happened. The gentleman that was with me actually stole an organ in my presence as I was there. I knew nothing of the business transaction. I knew nothing of it. It was a blatant crime, but it was done so suave and so natural until it had the appearance of being an amicable transaction between two friends. This church is on Ferdinand Road in Irvington. Bishop Joseph Giles went to the church where Bishop Edgar Holmes once pastored. The church sits out in a field by itself. There are homes around it in the distance. There's another church across from it. And this particular night, the church that is owned by the late Mr. Joe Moore, was riding with him in his truck. I had fallen asleep because driving or riding or whatever makes me real tired. I have road fatigue very bad. Everyone that knows me or aware of it since I was a child. You know, play in my ear, comb my hair, you know, play in my face, driving, riding. All of these things make me very sleepy. And this day was no different. It was an ordinary day. But this late evening, he went out to that community. Though I was born in Mobile, I'm not familiar with the Irvington, Theodore, Biola Battery, Grand Bay, St. Elmo. I'm not familiar with Fowl River, all that area. I'm not familiar with it. Bellingraph Garden. Anywhere in that community, I'm lost. I've been there a time or two, but I don't know my way in or out by myself. And this particular church that sat on Ferdinand Road, at night it is extremely dark, and because of the light in the parking lot of the church, it casts a dark shadow behind the building. When I say it's very isolated, it sits in a field by itself. And but very recent, Joseph Giles, William Wiggins, and myself had received an organ from one of my Facebook friends, Brother Elliott. And his church is on 158 in Saraland. I went to church alone under his instructions, pick out what I needed, and came back later, same day or a few days later at night, and got the things that he donated to my ministry. Joseph assisted me in that, and everything seemed very smooth. So I had no reason to think that the situation in Irvington was, I didn't feel like a crime was afoot, but in all actuality it was. After the organ was taken from the church and carried to the funeral home at 1770 West I-65 Service Road South between Barrel Furniture and D&K Menswear, it was placed in the chapel of the funeral home. And I'm clueless to what was going on, but rumors began to surface that Joseph Giles and myself had stolen an organ, and that bothered me. You know, people tease and play, and but that was no joke to me. I was not comfortable with that. So I had the occasion to do a funeral out on College Park Drive in Saraland, on the 8 Mile area, right across from college's New Destiny Christian Center, pastored by Javon McIntyre. Jimmy Holmes' funeral was that day, and I saw my goddaughter, Kizzy, there, and I inquired of her if she knew who owned that church and if I could get the number, because I wanted to do my research. I didn't let her know why I wanted it, but I wanted to do my own research to see if this organ was actually stolen. I had never seen a building, a rented building or church that came with an organ. So I thought Bishop Edgar Holmes Sr. left his organ there for Joseph Giles to move it, because an organ is heavy. The less it is moved, the better. I actually play organ and piano, so it seemed very normal to me. But when I found out that the organ was indeed stolen, I had inquired of Mr. Moore's daughter. That was the number given to me, and she said, yes, our organ is stolen and a lot of more other things. She in turn put her father on three-way with me, and we discovered the organ had been stolen and quite a few other things. I told them where the organ was and what they needed to do, and I cooperated. They didn't know me, but I wanted them to understand that whatever it takes to get this organ back, I would participate with the retrieval of the organ. My sister works at the police precinct on Broad and Virginia Street, diagonal to Pullman's Bakery. Famous Pullman Bakery. So, but my sister said, you cannot report it here. It has to be reported out in the county where the organ was taken from. Well, I'm from Mississippi. I don't know anything about that. But they did. Mr. Moore, his daughter, they did. After they contact the police, Mr. McGuire got on the phone, very rude, very insulting, asking how much did they pay me, to lie, and why would I report such and whatever? And I told him, I said, sir, I'm saved. I was raised by a very saintly lady that raised me to do right and not to have an affiliation with any criminal activity. And besides, I'm saved. And I expect to go to heaven when I leave this world. And that was wrong to steal an organ in the name of God, to take it over there to this funeral home. Well, he further insisted that the organ was not in the building because he had went there in May to investigate an alleged rape, and no organ was there. Me feeling that he was now in cahoots with the guy that stole the organ, me being the public relations director to the funeral home, I went to the funeral home, took pictures playing the organ, video playing the organ, and made sure the distinguished marks and everything was there, because I felt like this detective would tell the guy that stole the organ, and it would be moved, and it would
New text message from Sheila Betty's Powell.
It would look as if I had been dishonest. So, therefore, I took pictures, and I signifying what I had on, what date it was, that the organ was there, because I know this would tie the hands of the police, and it would limit his ability to have the organ moved, because he seemed to not care for this senior citizen. He seemed to feel like he was in some kind of criminal activity, or the guy was just not an upstanding gentleman. Well, that had nothing to do with me. I do know the organ was stolen out of a church, and I knew nothing about it. You know, it was dark. I was sick. I told him that I was sick. I told the guy that was removing the organ I was sick and I could not participate because of the condition I was in. When we finally got to the point of him asking me to come from Mississippi to come to Mobile October the 9th, 2019 so I could give a report, things had switched from being about the organ into some kind of fictitious harassment charge. Totally wrong, totally foul. Mr. Moore and his wife was there in the lobby waiting to go back and we do the investigation, do the interview and whatever together. Mr. Moore sensed that they would do something underhanded, some kind of duplicity, under the table dealing. So he came to be with me to ensure everything was straight with me. But Joey McGuire, the detective, told him he could leave. I was not there for that. He had me there for something else that I knew nothing of. Well, after Mr. Moore left, he eventually charged me with burglary third. I don't own a truck. I'm not familiar with the church. I didn't break into the church. When I awakened, crime was already in process that I knew nothing about. But my problem and dilemma today is I was charged with that, and I was charged maliciously. was wrong what was done. It was very mean spirited, because I was the only proof that he had that the other gentleman stole it. Me watching Dateline, Inside Edition, and all of the reality television shows that are out there, like First 48, seeing it being featured in the city of Mobile quite often these days, then you can kind of know what the laws are of Alabama and how things are done. And I know how loosely probable cause are done. I know how loosely that is, probable cause. But even at that, there was no reason to charge me with this organ, charge me with burglary third, unless you're being really, really heinous and low down and mean. This was wrong, and I don't believe the law books of Alabama support his actions. And because he did this, and it involves me, and I'm in it now, I'm determined that an inquest is done, and that this police is dealt with for his heavy-handedness, his mean actions, what I think is very racist of him. I told him who I was, I identified myself, my relationship with law enforcement, my relationship with the mayor and city council of Mobile. I was not expecting any preferable treatment, but I knew this organ theft was being pinned on me. Burglary, robbery, whatever. So he played the books to his advantage. He said burglary, saying I entered a building with the plans to steal something from that facility. That was a lie. Anyone know me? That's not my character. And by the way, everything was thrown out. Everything, the theft, even the burglary was thrown. All of that was thrown out. But he wanted it on my record. He wanted me to understand his power, who he was, his ability to arrest whomever he wanted to arrest, to put whatever crime to them that he wanted to put. And he did this. I've tried to get the video because it concerns me, the interrogation video. I've tried to get the phone conversations. And I need the public's cry. I need the public to insist that these videos and phone conversations be made public, because it concerns my reputation. And he was willing to do anything to hurt my reputation and to hurt my name. And he did so. Many people believed the lie, believed it. And I can't allow innocent people like myself to be hurt by vicious police of this caliber. Enough of real criminal activity will happen. But the average individual don't have the power to push, the tenacity to fight that I have. And many times people out of intimidation and fear would just concede and settle and accept a criminal charge to their name because they don't have the money. They don't have they feel they can't fight it. They're helpless. Especially when it's a poor black, white, or brown individual against a celebrated detective as he is. And so where I am now, I refuse to let this go down like that. With everything in me, legally, whatever it takes, whatever it costs, he made me understand who he is. Now he has to feel who I am, that I can't sit back and allow him to do this to anyone else. And for what it has cost me and what it has done to my brand, to my image, to my name, we have to have restitution for that. There need to be things done within the department that change the law if necessary, so that no citizen have to endure such rudeness, and upstanding citizens' names are flawed. Me being a preacher, the accusation alone is extreme. Many times people feel if you've been accused, then of course you're guilty. I praise God for his power, how he just had all of it dismissed, went away. But anyone that would do a background check of me would run into those accusations, and I'm uncomfortable with that. And so I'm pressing with all the power I possess. I bring to bear my total wherewithal to exhaust it completely for a full inquest, that transparency and full disclosure is exhausted concerning this situation. He had a young man from the funeral home to feign himself intellectually disabled. One of the funeral home employees that I hired, Anthony Alford, I wish so badly that this video could be made public so you would see how unethical this police is, and how he had tried to intimidate me with what he can do and what he can say, and making me aware of the harm that it would cause me. And it did. Everyone jumped on it. I was amazed. Everyone. But God enabled me to come through it. But I'm so upset. I'm so, because for the innocent, how often have we watched that happen, and we side on the part with the police against people we know. We side against people we know for the news. Rachel Wilkerson is my Facebook friend. All she needed to do was hit me on my messenger, say, Bishop Allen, there's a warrant for your arrest. Go down and put yourself on docket, and yada, yada, yada. And we'll talk afterwards about whatever. They knew about it. But they went on the air saying that evening, not a month later, but the next month. This happened October the 9th. But October the 19th, they went on the air saying I was on the run, I was out on bond, I was not out on bond, I was not on the run, I didn't know nothing about these charges, and claiming I'm self-proclaimed, and using a lot of inflammatory statements to paint me in an ugly way in the eyes of the public. Well, I think they put their foot in their mouth, and what I'm seeking, legal representation to deal with Roseanne Haven and WKRG5, to deal with Rachel Whitaker and Rachel Wilkerson, and WPMI 15. This was the funeral home that she had been investigating for months. Joseph Giles got Anthony Alford to lie and go on television. And they do with all this hype and sensationalism and all this drama, painting myself to be this pedophile, if you please. Though he was 22, and he went on record saying he wanted me to go to jail before I start doing this to little children, because that was the objective. They knew that this guy was 22, and his lie would be weak, so they had to make him crazy, intellectually disabled. They had to give him some kind of flaw so they could hide his face, put him across and allow him a platform, and he did. But I had a ton of text messages between us that he didn't want to go public. All this was lies. All of this was total lies. And he eventually didn't come to court, and the case was thrown out. I'm not selling for that like that. I'm not. Many times people still side with the underdog, and maybe he was intimidated by him and he didn't want to face him, and yada yada yada. This is not a case like that. This guy was arrested a week ago today, February 17th. This guy was arrested for receiving stolen goods, driving with suspended driver license. So he had been driving a hearse for the funeral home with suspended driver's license. So he have a lot of criminal activity to his record, to his, and they went on the air talking about my church as if he was a member of my church, or if he had heard me preach. He've never been to my church, never heard me preach. He has no affiliation to me church-wise at all. His only affiliation to me is through the funeral home. He's because I hired him. But he never told her that. He never told her that he was a part of the funeral home, and that I was a part of the funeral home, that I was the public relations director. Now, so what this was a bluff, a blackmail, something, because who would want any accusation like that to their name? But when it comes to me, I'm not a person you can blackmail like that. I don't, when you lie, if you lie on me, then I got you. Because if you got to lie to get me, then that speaks to your integrity and you as a person. And I was fine with it. And I'm crazy like that. You're not gonna bluff me, intimidate me, or with any of that. And I left it standing there. But this was a guy, Joseph Giles, who boldly confessed to killing his mother's boyfriend named Sam. His mother's name is Terry. She had spent time in prison because Joseph Giles says she killed his daddy. And because she killed his daddy, he killed her boyfriend. That was very good to her, she claims. And she warned him of making statements like that because there's no limitation, statute of limitations on murder. And she's right. But he boldly, because Mobile let him off with that. But did I tell that to Joseph McGuire, the detective, the deputy that was doing the investigation? I most certainly did. Did he do anything about it? He most certainly did not. But he came trying to intimidate me and took the attention off of the theft of the organ because he didn't like Mr. Moore. And he charged Joseph Giles eventually with receiving stolen goods. But in police work, I was his witness. Joseph Giles ended up paying nothing, serving no time for the crime he did. And when Mr. Moore got his organ back, it was tore up when it was in perfect working order, working condition. And who's to blame for that is Joey McGuire. But what Joey McGuire did, he allowed Paul Birch, who I don't know, neither does Anthony Alford know him, but him covering for Joey, because that's what the police do. They cover for one another. So Paul Birch covered the situation and supposedly fed information to the television stations concerning me. They was expecting other victims and all. I mean, just assassinated my character. And I need you to understand, I'm fine. I'm not a person that you could do that to. I boldly rejoice to be persecuted, to be falsely accused for the name of Christ. To report that crime, I did right. To report that crime, the city of Mobile should give me an Outstanding Citizens Award. But they rather do something low down and dirty to hurt my name. I could be your pastor, your brother, your daddy, your uncle, your nephew, any relative of yours, or it could be you, the next person they try to frame. It could be you. This was wrong. This was wrong. And I speak to Sandy Simpson, the mayor of Mobile, to look into this. Chief of Police Lawrence Baptiste, to look into this. Sheriff Sam Cochran, to look into this. This only happened, I was only arrested because my sister couldn't take the charge, or Mobile couldn't. It had to be done out there in the county where that church was. This only happened because I didn't call Crime Stoppers, because I didn't know this was a crime. I had to find out first. And I didn't know how to report it because I didn't know who owned it or anything about it. And upon me finding out, I cooperated fully with the situation. But what he did, he switched it around and came with a harassment charge, which harassment can be very light, very nothing. But this young man got on there saying how I had groped him, and he gave a time saying 5 minutes and all. But all this stuff was easily to find out through his text messages and mine. It was easy to find out through his ping what tower. It was easy to find out had he called Saraland, the church on 158, and checked to see, did the man give me the organ that I had? It was easy to investigate. But he wanted to do what he did. He had to do what he did. He wanted to teach me a lesson. Says I wanted to be a detective and take pictures playing the organ, take pictures singing and beside the organ and giving it to the victims. These senior citizens, Mr. Moore is now deceased, his wife living, but no one deserved to have their instruments stolen. This was wrong, and I don't care about what kind of lifestyle he leads. What was done to him was wrong. I witnessed it. But now it is questionable. Anyone that said participate, you can remain anonymous, and all of that malarkey. I am the whistleblower. I was only arrested twice because I reported this crime. And the reason I was was arrested twice because he split the charges so that the granted clause, whereas it would look like I was arrested October the 9th, bond out, now I go into criminal activity and I'm harassing someone. So that means now I've caught another felony. Not that I've done anything wrong, but he deliberately holding the other charge out to play the system for his personal gripe against me. And he's given this kind of latitude to handle his job, to handle personal vendettas. So as opposed to giving me both charges and let me bail out and go about my business and deal with both of them, he wanted me to spend time in jail. But I'm a praying man, and I love the Lord with everything in me. And nothing he did stuck. Nothing he did stuck. And anybody that he has arrested, I question it. Because he put these charges on me. He was deliberate about them. WPMI 15, WKRG 5, Rachel Wilkerson, and Roseanne Haven, their job is to report the news. But their job is not to make the news, not to ad-lib, not to insinuate, imply, insert, but they using inflammatory statements, and nobody came, no one called me, no one came to the jail as they did with Joseph Bonner. As you see on First 48, the news cameras are always there to follow whatever suspect. They went on the air painting me to be a criminal and just a total shyster. So why didn't they come to the jail when I bonded out with a microphone saying, Bishop Allen, did you do such and such a thing or whatever? They talked about my church, they talked about my ministry, but they didn't come when I bonded out. They didn't come to the trial, and the public don't know how the matter resolved. And that's wrong. That's wrong, and I need Mobile to understand who it is. These people are celebrated as being people of integrity, and that their investigations are non-biased and very fair. That's a lie. That is a bald-faced lie. They lack integrity. If I committed a crime, they supposed to report it. If a preacher does something heinous, it should be in the news. But they knew I was not guilty of this, and they didn't want me to have a word edgewise into the situation.
New